Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Robert Meyer-Burnett.
What's up?
Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Chris Carr's here.
Hello.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Here's how our show's going to go. We got a number of topics lined up here for you guys that we're going to discuss, but then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions and topics. If you have a comment, question, or topic you'd like us to address, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, we'll address it in the second part of the show. But here's the good news. The tip link is also good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you have a thought, theory, opinion, or question as you're listening to the show on our podcast feed, either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or maybe you're watching the show a little bit later in the day when we're not live, you can still send in a question, that tip link. And if you send it in when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. With that down, let's get this day started with some really, I'm not going to bury the lead, crappy news on several fronts. First of all, ABC News has reported that Buffy and Gossip Girl actress Michelle Trachtenberg has died at the age of 39. It says the actress best known for her roles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Gossip Girl has died at the age of 39. She was found dead Wednesday in her New York City apartment near Columbus Circle just after 8 a.m. local time by her mother. They're saying she died as a result of complications to a recent liver transplant that she just got, and the police are not considering any foul play at all. They said this was natural causes, probably as a result of this. Like a lot of people, now I was more of an Angel guy, I admit, but like a lot of people, I mean, I first got note of her. It was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was Buffy's little sister.
She's Dawn.
And she actually managed to go on to still make a career for herself. Like a lot of kids, when they get famous that young, they don't. They're not able to do something. And I can't help but really feel an extra dose of tragedy to this for her story. Because you guys know that just recently Sarah Michelle Gellar's been talking about they're going to be doing a Buffy revival. Mm. And while I haven't heard anything confirming this, I just assumed she would probably going to be a part of that as well. I never did watch Gossip Girl, so that one, I know there's a lot of people I was reading from today who are big Gossip Girl fans who are really lamenting this. Age of 39, still so young. What a tragic thing. Again, especially when it looked like she might have been poised for another resurgence at this point. Anyway, and for her mother to find her. I mean, I cannot imagine. I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but I don't think I've ever imagined anything worse than a parent losing a child. I can't even fathom it. It's so outside of the realm of what I'm thinking about. So anyway, Chris, obviously very familiar with her work. You're quoting some of her other movies a little bit
Harriet
earlier.
the Spy.
Yeah, I mean,
She was Harriet.
What's your reaction to this?
Oh, this is so upsetting. I loved her as a kid. Oh my gosh, Harriet the Spy. I made my parents get me that VHS and I watched it over and over again. I loved it so much. She was so great in Buffy. She was so great in all of the things she went on to do after. I really enjoyed her. And oh my gosh, did all of my guy friends have crushes on her. She was a wonderful actress. She seemed so lovely. And this is also why, you know, about a year ago, she was dealing with online bullying of people talking about how she looked sickly. Guess what? She was ill. And this is one of those reminders too of everyone is going through something that you don't know about. So probably choose to be kind on the internet or keep things to yourself. You never know what anyone's going through. And 39, I mean, she's just a few years older than me. That is so devastating. And finding a family member incapacitated is something that I've experienced, and it's a very terrifying feeling. So to find your own daughter just passed away in her own home, that is so scary and so horrible. And I hope her family is doing well and that they're getting the privacy that they need at this time and that they all can just try to heal from this. This is so sad. Just, you know, complications from surgery. You never know what's going to happen. That's so scary.
Somebody in the live chat reminded me of this. I totally forgot. She was Penny in the Inspector Gadget live action movie. I totally forgot about that. Anyway, Rob, you're just hearing this news now. What do you think about this?
Well, I mean, it's it's sad. And again, I was a huge Buffy fan, and that's where I first saw her. I saw a few episodes of Gossip Girl, but whenever somebody dies, that's left, it's a weird thing. And now in our internet age, a lot of us do this. We leave a footprint behind us.
Yeah.
When we're gone, and at least people, 100 years ago, they didn't have what we have now, and at least she's left a body of work that will be rediscovered. I mean, with a Buffy revival happening, a lot of people are going to go back and rediscover the original shows, so they'll see her work again. And she was even in the Gossip Girl revival. Mm-hmm. Not very long, not much of it, but she was in the Gossip Girl revival. It's just sad. It's sad when anybody dies at such a young age, and especially after undergoing long-term health complications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, it's terrible news to wake up to. Guys, what are your favorite memories of Michelle's career? Were you a big Buffy person? Maybe you were a New Girl person. Maybe, like me, you remember Inspector Gadget fondly, and a lot of Eurotrip, like a lot of other things she did. Whatever you guys think about this whole thing and how you're feeling, let us know down in the comments section below. All right, guys. Unfortunately, we need to continue with the bad news. Hollywood producer and writer who brought us the first Transformers movie, rebirthing Star Trek with J.J. Abrams, Roberto Orci, has passed away at the age of 51 as a result of complications of kidney disease. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline, who wrote the following. Born and raised in Mexico City, Orci moved to the United States with his family when he was 10. He started off as a writer-producer on Xena, Warrior Princess, and Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, and for most of his career was partnered with Alex Kurtzman. Orci was a co-writer-producer on the 2009 Star Trek movie reboot, which, if I'm going to be honest, is the reason I'm a Star Trek fan today, is because of that movie. Reboot and its two sequels, as well as the 2007 Transformers movie, which was the only good one before Bumblebee came around, and the 2009 follow-up Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Orci's feature credits also include work on Mission Impossible 3, The Legend of Zorro, and producing the Now You See Me franchise, which is about to get a new movie, The Proposal, Eagle Eye, and The Mummy. Yeah, I was kind of mentioning this earlier, and I could hear Rob audibly sigh, but like I remember when one of the longest standing things for me, when I was back at doing stuff at AMC, and they announced they were doing a new Star Trek movie. For about a year and a half leading up to that movie. And I remember having a good conversation with Roberto Orci about this. I admitted this. For a good year and a half on my channel, I talked about how let that rotting corpse known as Star Trek let it just deteriorate and die.
How dare you?
But it was by, at the time, it was by every definition, a dead franchise.
Yeah, all the Next Generation movies were not doing well. So
yeah, I mean, and here's the main thing, like when a living organism stops producing new cells, that means it is now in decay and it's dying. Star Trek up until that point was their fan base was literally, not literally dying off and not being replaced with new fans at the time. Star Trek back in that era was not generating brand new fandom. And it was a dying franchise. And I said, it's a stupid idea to do this movie and all this kind of stuff. And whatever side of the spectrum you fall on with the 2009 Star Trek relaunch, it reignited a new interest in Star Trek. It turned me around and made me a Star Trek fan again. And obviously, he was part of the reason that Transformers came. I love the first Transformers movie. Not so much any of the rest of them until Bumblebee came around. Mm. And I was particularly honored that Roberto then became, back when I was starting to do the Masters of the Web stuff at Comic-Con that I did every year, he was on my first panel. The first time I was putting it together, him and Edgar Wright together came and did my panel, and I had the opportunity. Then he came back the next year and just dropped in on me unexpectedly, and he did some stuff. He was a really nice guy. Now, his life had some controversy at the same time that I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention, like he filed for divorce from his wife, got a restraining order against her and filed a lawsuit against her. After that, she filed lawsuits against him and stuff like that. And it really got all messy. And after that, he kind of quietly disappeared. And I never even knew, I haven't talked to Roberto in years, to be honest with you, but I didn't even know he was struggling with illness or sickness. So it was with great shock and surprise that I saw the news that he had passed away. Again, I'm not going to pretend like I knew him well personally. I did not, but the opportunities and the times that I got to hang out with him and that he came and did participate in my stuff at Comic-Con, he was always incredibly funny. He was always incredibly generous. He was very self-deferential in his self-depreciating in his own humor. He was just a really nice guy to be around. And again, when you look back at some of the pop cultural pillars that he's gotten the opportunity to be a part of, Xena, Hercules, Transformers, Star Trek. I mean, he got to live big. And I was really, really saddened to hear about his passing. Anyway, Chris, you heard about the passing of Robert Orci. Your first thoughts?
Oh man, sad day. A lot of loss today. I was a really big fan of the first 2 seasons of Sleepy Hollow, which he was part of.
I really liked that show.
I loved that
not
show.
the ending of it.
It took a turn, but the beginning of it was fantastic. And a lot of that just had to do with some casting issues and stuff like that is why they had to pivot. But the start of that show was excellent. I mean, he also helped out on Fringe.
I like Fringe.
Oh, Fringe was so good.
Fun, so interesting. The Proposal. I had to try to do my best Ryan Reynolds to camera on it. Worked on that as well. I mean, just a whole bunch of really fantastic projects underneath him. It's just always sad when you lose creative people. And again, so young, 51.
Yeah.
That's barely anything. Gosh.
Hey, Rob, your first reaction when you heard about
Well, you know, I too met him. He was Courtney Ford's brother, and Courtney Ford was Brandon Routh's wife.
Right.
And at their wedding, I was there shooting their wedding, and I talked to him at length because it was before Star Trek, but I knew he was doing Star Trek. And he was a dyed-in-the-wool Star Trek fan. And I remember talking with him about the Star Trek novel Prime Directive. And he was like, man, I'd love to adapt that book. And I said, it'd be amazing. But he told me, and he made a great point. He said, look, you can't adapt that book until you've done multiple movies with the cast because it would come later. I said, yeah, because it's the end of the Enterprise's 5-year mission. And he goes, yeah, but it would be great to do it. And he, like you said, he was warm and generous and very, very smart. And he was a true dyed-in-the-wool fan, and he really knew his Star Trek. So it's too bad, 51, man.
Yeah, like really, especially since I never even heard that he was ill. Like maybe it was public knowledge, but I didn't know. Anyway, guys, question is for you. When you look back on the resume of Roberto Orci and some of the great stuff he got to be involved in, what was the stuff that stands out to you the most? Whatever it was, jump down in the comments below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we?
Oh, boy.
AMC CEO Adam Aron.
Right there. Just rip the Band-Aid off.
There it is.
The world's only walking tit cyst. I'm not a big fan of Adam Aron. It just is what it is.
I was going to bring up a picture, but I just feel after that it was too cool. I held my finger off the button.
Yeah.
Is that a Dr. Pimple Popper episode I missed?
You shouldn't pop a cyst.
I'm not a fan of the gentleman. My own personal opinion. I think he's been a wretched CEO for AMC, especially following Jerry, who was an amazing CEO for AMC back when I was there. But at any rate, he just came out and said some things. Because, even a broken clock, what do they say, is right twice a day. He just came out and said some things that I am actually in full agreement with.
No.
Yeah, he did. The headline is that Adam Aron, AMC's Adam Aron, slams the 17 and 30-day theatrical windows as too short, calls the whole topic a very live debate right now. And I am, listen, I got to call it like it is. I am actually completely aligned with him on this. I agree completely. The article in Deadline writes the following. This is quoting Adam Aron, who says, "We would like to convince all the major studios that they should keep movies in theaters longer. Frickin' men," the CEO of the nation's largest exhibitor said today, noting that, yes, windows have shortened since COVID, But where they could ultimately wind up is still, quote unquote, a very live debate right now. Adam Aaron said, in our view, 17 days or 30 days are too short. And this is a conversation that is front and center live, not just wishful thinking, he said. He's absolutely right. And my personal feelings on his performance as the CEO of AMC aside, if I'm going to criticize when I think he's wrong, I have to give him his roses when I think he's right. He is absolutely right. A 17-day window is absolutely ridiculous. They should string and quarter whoever. Oh, wait, what? Oh, from 2020. AMC Theaters has struck a historical agreement with Universal that will allow the studio's movies to be made available on premium video on demand after 17 days of play in cinema. Adam Aaron, you remember this is 2020. Adam Aaron said AMC and Theaters enthusiastically embraces this new industry model, both because we are participating in the entirety of the economics of the new structure and because premium video on demand creates the added potential for increased movie studio profitability, which should in turn lead to the green lighting of more theatrical movies. He's the one who created this problem. He made this problem. He comes out, oh, we are totally against this stupid 17-day window. You made it. You're the one who opened the door for Universal Studios to come in and say, we want a 17-day window. Sure, Universal, you opened Pandora's box. You're the one who did it.
Well, he wants to close it now.
You know what it reminds me of? Because like on both sides of the political aisles, like freaking politicians do this all the time, but it kind of, I'm not trying to be in politics, other politicians have done this too, but it kind of reminded me of when Donald Trump recently came and said, I saved Twitter. Except back in 2020, it was Donald Trump himself who created the executive order to ban Twitter. And then he's like, I saved Twitter.
Or TikTok.
TikTok. I'm the one who saved TikTok. He was the one who banned it in the first place. And then now we got Adam Aaron. Adam Aaron. This is outrageous. We can't have a 17-day window. Then why did you fucking let them do it? Why were you the only movie studio? Why were you the one who broke with all the other theater chains and said, we're going to sign a deal in the dead of night behind everybody's back? We're going to sign a deal with Universal Studios to allow them to have 17-day windows. He's the one who created the problem. People wonder why I have such a hard time with this doofus. This ignorant bag of walking shit who's just single-handedly been ruining the theatrical industry. Anyway, I won't go off on that. I will go back to the positive thing just to say that I agree the 17 and 30-day window. Rob, we've talked about this for years, that the shortening of the window has more and more conditioned the movie-going audience to, hey, you don't need to go watch movies.
Right.
You don't need to go. You know why? Because it's going to be out there. I remember Twister did that recently. There was another movie that did it recently. It's like just the ongoing Companion.
16 days. You know, Prince once wrote a song called 17 Days.
Maybe he was
B-side,
prophetic.
but it wasn't about this. It was about romance.
Maybe he was prophetic. And just the whole idea that they just can, every time they do it, they condition the audience. And then they're wondering, man, why are we getting less box office returns? Why aren't we making the money we used to make? Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see the issue at hand. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think you're right. The idea is that we have conditioned, or the theaters have conditioned audiences, and so is our entire, let's face it, it's the entire entertainment ecosystem has conditioned people to not necessarily run out to the theaters to see something unless they're being provided some kind of a spectacle. It's got to be bread and circuses to get somebody to come out to go see a film, which is really too bad because, as I said, brought up Companion. Companion is so far it's my favorite movie of 2025. It was so much fun, and I was in a theater full of five. It was 5 people in it on a Friday night, or actually it was on a Thursday night, and it diminished. If I was there, the whole theater full of people, they would have loved it. They would have had the experience. They would have gone and told their friends, you got to go see this movie. It's a self-perpetuating thing. Yeah. And if we're going to get people, and if we're going to expect people to keep going to the movie theaters, we can't be doing this kind of thing. You know, a friend of mine, Rob G, works in exhibition, and he books theaters. And I've been learning a lot more about how the exhibition side of things work, because it was something I was very ignorant about. And it's an interesting way. On one hand, he has to deal with studios. They want their movies in theaters, but if they're not performing, you have to get it's up to everybody to foster that environment where people have to go out to see the films. And, you have to have the theaters do it. You have to have the studios do it. And it's got to be a communal effort for everybody. And it needs to start happening more if we want the theatrical experience to endure.
Chris?
Yeah, this is death by suicide.
Yeah.
We talked about this in a very different way earlier, but this is the find out era after fucking around. If you made these calls, it's your fault. The call was coming from inside the house. It's your fault. I've always thought this window was really bad. Honestly, even like the 40-day windows have been troublesome to me, especially when there are films that have great legs and are doing really well. Movies are meant to be seen on movie screens.
And look at Mufasa.
Look, the legs that movie has had. Yeah, it's true, because it exceeded it's gone over 700 million now, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Like, anyway.
So I'm a little like, so I remember when Universal pulled that little rug pull. So did he like backtrack and then support it? Because I thought that the theaters were like, oh, well.
So here was the situation. Again, this is back in 2020. Universal was wanting to have this window, and all the theaters from NATO were like, no, we're simply, if you're going to do that, you are not going to have Universal movies playing on our screens.
Right. But AMC wasn't with that.
It wasn't just AMC. It was all of them, right?
Oh, okay.
And then, after standing shoulder to shoulder with all the other theaters, they're saying, you're not doing that, Universal, because if you do, kiss goodbye ever playing any of your movies on our screens again. In the dead of night,
then he okayed
Adam Aaron signed a deal with Universal Studios. You can play your stuff on our screens for 17 days. And it's just so hilarious to me reading this headline, Adam Aaron slams 17-day window. And then turn the page looking back. What's that 2020 article? Oh, we at AMC enthusiastically endorse this model. It's like, you piece of garbage. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Adam Aaron, I believe, rightfully coming out and criticizing the 17 and 30-day windows that some studios are trying to do. It's hurting themselves. It's, as Chris pointed out, it's death by suicide. But it's being said by the same guy who opened the door to it. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Penguin has been winning a lot of awards. And again, that train just kept going at the recent SAG Awards, where Colin Farrell once again took Best Lead Actor in a Television Movie or Limited Series. And good for him. He deserved it. Absolutely brilliant in it. We've gone on many times on the show about how great Penguin is. But you might have seen a lot of people running with the headlines that he doesn't want to do a season 2. As a matter of fact, the headline itself, right from Variety, says Colin Farrell, quote unquote, is in no rush to do the Penguin season 2. I have no deep desire to do it, which is what he said. But let's take a look at what his full comments are here. So when asked backstage at the SAG Awards about, hey, you're going to do Penguin season 2 now, right? Like, with all the success and how much love the show has. This is what Colin Farrell said. I don't want it. I do not want it. He told me exclusively backstage at the SAG Awards. We all left it in the ring in those 8 hours. I would hate to, just because of a quote unquote success, have to go again and for it to be a diluted version of what people seem to feel it is. Okay, so he's coming out and saying, I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. But is he really saying that? Because he actually goes on to say this. So I'm in no rush. I have no deep desire to do it. Sure. If they think of something that works in conjunction as a parallel to Matt Reeves' cinematic universe, and it's a good idea, I'm open to it. But it's not something concerning me. This has become the standard boilerplate template for all actors to say when asked about a sequel. No, I don't think we need to go back to it. I would hate to water down what we've already done, but if they have a good idea, I'll do it. While everybody else is reading Colin Farrell's comments, and I understand why, I do. I'm not calling anybody dumb. I get why, and saying, "Oh, he doesn't want to do it." I look at the full context of his comments, and I'm like, he just told us he's going to do it.
He's gonna be Penguin in that movie anyway.
Yeah, he's coming back as Penguin anyway. But I mean, to me, whenever an actor says, "Well, I mean, I don't really think we should, but if they come to me with a good idea," that's saying he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And believe me, I watched his acceptance speeches, every one of his acceptance speeches. Don't think for a second that he didn't, and he deserved it. Of course he should. That he didn't absolutely love every moment. There's very few things that are really as cool as recognition from your peers. And that's what winning all these awards and accolades from the people he respects in his own craft, acknowledging him, that's an amazing feeling. And so, Chris, I mean, I get it. He's been saying things like, "Oh my God, the 8 hours of putting on and taking off this makeup, the walking around with 75 pounds of this stuff on me, and I don't want it. I don't want to do it all." I get it, but I'm interpreting this as him saying, "Yeah, of course I'm coming back." I don't know. How do you interpret it?
I feel like that is our safe bet of I'm doing the PR thing. However, with Colin Farrell in particular, who does not mince words and also isn't the best at doing his own publicity sometimes,
It's true.
which is often hilarious and charming because he just says whatever comes off the dome. But I feel like for him, though, because he has been so vocal about, "Hey, yeah, this is a great character and I love playing him, but this is hard work and also really tedious," I can understand for him of, no, I'll just keep showing up in the movies. I don't need to keep doing series. And especially because with this show, everyone seemed so surprised that comic book content could be this good.
What?
There was this huge thing. Everyone did just Scooby-Doo it. Huh? And so The Sopranos. But I think that with that in mind, there is this pressure for season 2 to really, really perform in a way that I don't think other shows deal with. Everyone has to have that sophomore slump. I feel like this show, a season 2, would be really, really looked at in a hypercritical way that would just almost set it up for failure. So I can understand in this case, no, I don't want to do the worst version of season 1. So I feel like in this one case, I do actually trust, love, and believe somebody.
But I mean,
that's how
one
we
of the things he
get
said
you.
was,
Yeah.
if they
It's mostly
come
'cause
up
it's
with
an
a
Irish
good
rogue.
idea, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any actor or any director or any writer who has a successful series would want to come back and do a worse version of that. I don't think any
No,
actor out there
of
would
course
do
not.
that. And that's why, like, when I kind of look at it and he says, "But, you know, if they come with a good idea, I'm open to it." I mean, I think that goes without saying. I don't think if they went to Colin Farrell and showed him a script for season 2 and it was absolute garbage,
Yeah.
that he'd say, "Yeah,
For sure,
sign
for
me
sure.
up."
But I feel like in this case, it's not I'm being a cheeky little actor who doesn't want to reveal too much. I think it is him genuinely doing, well, I don't want to do a bad version. So yeah, if it's good, I'll do it. And if it's not good, I won't.
Yeah.
I
Rob,
mean,
how do you interpret it?
Well, I agree with Chris. I mean, you always leave a door open. Nobody slams a door on anything. That's never a good plan. But you know, in this day and age, every time you want to follow up something with success, if you already have something that's at the pinnacle, there's not a lot of ways to go except down. It's hard to exceed success. I mean, and he's probably thinking, well, the last time somebody followed up being a successful Batman villain, they were in the Joker. And then now they followed that up with Folie et Deux, which is now going to be a cautionary tale for sequels for, you know, the 100 years. So I get where he's coming from. Both Matt Reeves, the Batman, and this show, they spoke to what they were after was such a high level of success, and they were
So
really
good.
They were really aspiring to something. And I think that Colin Farrell, you know, I'm a huge Colin Farrell fan. You know, all the way from things like In Bruges. I will defend to the death Michael Mann's Miami Vice. I thought he was great as Crockett.
He was really good in that.
He was great. And I just love the guy. So he's had his ups, he's had his downs. He knows what's up. He doesn't need to be in things. He doesn't need to follow up something unless it's truly special. So I believe he means that, but why slam the door? And in this day and age, look what happens. We're talking about it on a show. Well, what did he mean? And he's like you pointed out, he's left it open. which is the way to go.
And now he can't be considered like a hypocrite because we've seen before where people are like, no, I'm done with that. I'm done with that. And then 5 years later, things aren't going so great. And it's like, you said
I'll
you
come
were
back.
beyond this.
Yeah.
Well, I just couldn't say anything at the time. And that's why I don't trust or love anyone usually.
But,
Exactly.
okay, this is all great in theory. You had to put $500 on, which we're not doing. I'm just saying. But if you did, you had to put $500 on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, are you betting that $500 that we will see Colin Farrell back in a Penguin season 2, or that we wouldn't?
In what world am I fluid with money here?
I'm not, that's in theory.
In theory,
theoretical
okay.
money.
In Monopoly money,
Come on.
yeah, I'd do it.
Okay,
I'd do
Rob,
it.
do you think if you had to put 500 theoretical internet dollars on it, would you bet that we are going to see Colin Farrell back in a Penguin season 2, or that we will not have a Penguin season 2?
I don't think we'd have Penguin season 2. I think he'd be in a movie first.
Well, he definitely will be in the movie first. That we know. That's a fact.
I don't think so, only
Really?
because he's done it. You know, I don't think that there's much he can do. Look, never say never, but it's got to be great for him to do it.
I agree. I
But
think it's got to be great for even James Gunn to greenlight it at this point.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's possible to do that.
I think they can. I mean,
Yeah,
I,
of course you can.
I look at like Succession season 1, and then Succession season 2, or Game of Thrones, and then Game of Thrones season 2. You know, they can do it. It's not easy though. It's not going to
true.
be an easy thing to do, because you're right. That Joker Folia do, although not part of a shared cinematic universe, that Joker is a good cautionary tale. That's a very
It is,
very
and you
right
know what?
about that.
I have a controversial take. People now are impugning. I've impugned my own taste by saying I like that film because I thought what they did with that movie was pretty audacious and interesting. Do I think it's what people wanted? Absolutely not. But I watch that movie and I look at the craft with which they put into it and the performances and everything that happened. I enjoyed that film. I wouldn't have made that movie, but I think that we are better off that a movie like that exists. It's just that, you know, everybody wanted it to be something else. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Colin Farrell said, I don't want to do it. But if they come to me with a good idea, I'm open to it. I mean, and I'll put it to you, if you had to wager 500 theoretical dollars on it, do you think we are at some point going to get Colin Farrell? I mean, we're going to see him as Penguin again for sure, but are we going to see him in a Penguin season 2? I think we will. Rob doesn't think so. Chris mildly thinks so. How do you guys think about it? Whatever
As long
you
as the
think,
money's
jump down
fake.
to the comments below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. We still got a few things to talk about here, including some numbers and data have come in from that Disney Plus Max bundle thing, and it's crushing Netflix in the most important analytic that all the streamers face right now. We're going to talk about that and why it is. Also, where is Shang-Chi 2? Well, I mean, we got Spider-Man 4 coming first. Is that hindering Shang-Chi 2? Simu Liu had some comments about it. We're going to talk about those and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at NordVPN. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. All right, let's be real. There's nothing worse than wanting to stream your favorite show or watch a live game only to find out it's blocked in your country. But guess what? With NordVPN, that is never a problem. With just one click, you can switch your virtual location and access content from anywhere in the world. I have loved using NordVPN. Whether I'm traveling and using public Wi-Fi or just shopping online, NordVPN keeps my personal info safe and private. By switching my location, I can even save money on flights, hotels, and subscriptions. It's like a cheat code for getting the best deals. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, so there's no buffering when I'm streaming. Plus, their threat protection feature blocks malware, trackers, and phishing attempts, keeping my devices safe 24/7. And with just one account, I can protect up to 10 devices, so my whole setup is covered. So to get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/John Campea, and our link will even give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Links in the description. Check it out now. And thank you to our friends at NordVPN for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The biggest obstacle facing the streaming companies today is not really acquiring new subscribers or stuff like that. I mean, these are all challenges for sure, but the main pirate on the seas for streamers isn't even piracy. It's churn. What is churn? Churn is simply the process of, let's take Apple TV Plus, for example. Succession is airing season 2 right now. Churn is when somebody says, okay, I'll sign up for Apple TV Plus because I want to watch Succession. And then once Succession is done, they cancel. And then maybe they come back 8 months later when the next season of Shrinking comes on, or For All Mankind, or something along those lines. But the whole idea of canceling a service once you're done watching something you want to watch, and then maybe coming back to it a little bit later. It's known as churn. It's the biggest thing that's costing. It's totally good for people to do, but it's the one thing that's costing a lot. And the streamers have been really fighting to find ways to counter churning. Well, a little while ago, Disney Plus with Hulu decided to partner up with HBO Max. I know it's just called Max. I will never just call it Max. It's HBO Max. Decide to partner up with Max and do a bundle. The theory behind it was that if people have Disney Plus and HBO Max, then there's more likely going to constantly be something they want to watch, and maybe they won't churn as much. Well, that's been around for a few months now. Has it worked? Well, according to this headline and deadline, Disney Max bundle is quote unquote just crushing it. Better subscriber retention rate than Netflix is a wake-up call for the industry, researchers say. Deadline went on to write this. The CEO of Antenna said that the company's most recent findings show that the bundle, that's the Disney and HBO one, is quote unquote getting real customer traction and is just crushing it in terms of subscriber retention. In fact, the firm said that 80% of the roughly 1.6 million customers who signed up between July and December for the bundle of Max, Disney, and Hulu were still subscribed 3 months later. That's higher than Disney's own bundle of Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, Max on its own, and Netflix, all of which were in the 55% range. First of all, can we wrap our heads around that for a second? That almost half of streaming subscribers engage in churn, which, hey, listen, if you do you, if that's what works for you, I think you should do it. But that is something that costs the streamers untold amounts of money, right? And all of a sudden they try this bundle deal. Well, let's see if this works. It's like, well, that thing I wanted to watch on Disney Plus is done, but this thing on HBO is coming up, so I'm going to keep the thing going. And then you watch that. Okay, now I got this thing on, well, Daredevil's coming out now. I want to watch that, so we'll keep, and 80% retention, which I got to admit doesn't sound like a lot, but when you realize the industry kind of standard right now is like 55% retention, that's insane. So my question becomes, how long until Peacock, Paramount Plus, Amazon, and Apple TV all form one bundle, or until we finally get that one master bundle to rule them all? The one ring of streaming service bundles. Yeah, $59.99, and you get
cable.
And the darkness binds them.
We'll call it cable. But like seriously, $60 a month, and you get Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon and Max and Peacock and Paramount Plus and OnlyFans Red subscriptions. I don't know if that's a real thing. I just kind of made it up.
Well,
Well, now
sign me up.
now you have my attention. So Rob, I knew this would have an impact. I knew that bundling would reduce churn. I didn't suspect these types of numbers. Do you think this is going to be something that becomes consistent? Do you think it's just a flash in the pan? And do you think it's going to be much longer now before we see even more of these bundle deals start coming down the pipe?
Well, you know, I've been noticing more and more how much I pay for subscriptions, because some of them I have on a PayPal card and some of them I have on my regular bank. I need to consolidate where I'm paying my cable bills from or my streamer bills from. And I'm surprised at just how much I am spending for various. Maybe I should get Rocket Money and get down on my
There you go.
subscriptions. But I mean, I look at this stuff and I think it's a good idea. And especially if you have disparate, like suddenly Hulu is airing Paradise, which is my new favorite show,
I
and
watched the new one last night.
oh,
my
did you watch
God.
episode 7?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so good.
And it's like I changed I went and got the Disney Plus Hulu bundle, and I changed specifically to get that. Now the Max thing I'm paying for separately, but if you have 2 or 3 subscriptions bundled together to different services, that leads me to not want to churn as much because
Right.
there's more to see on all of those platforms. And if you have 2 or 3, like you said, if I had 10, if there's a bundle for 10, then you're just paying for cable again.
Yeah.
Cable, the
You know-
place for streaming.
And the whole point of buying, Netflix or buying Max is you're trying to go for the place that you use the most. But, if I'm jumping around, John, having a bundle's a better deal. And I think that it's probably going to be, I mean, didn't we always posit that was going to happen like 3 or 4 years ago, that yes, one day we're going to be bundled back together, and all these shows and everyone's just going to take their piece of the pie.
By the way, I should have mentioned this up front, but if you were to get Disney Plus without ads, Hulu without ads, and Max without ads, you're spending $53 a month for those 3. The bundle of all 3 without ads, $29. So not only is it appealing in the sense that, well, I won't churn because I got the show on Hulu coming out, I got that show on Disney Plus, I got that show, but it's also saving you a substantial amount of money for now until they start raising the prices again, right?
Yes.
But anyway, Chris, you see this. Are you surprised by the retention success that they're having? Do you think this can continue? Do you think this will encourage other streamers to bundle or not? How do you see it?
I feel like it's just a testament to them consistently having content for us to view and consume. So you're not going to dump these things because you still want to watch the next thing. It's close enough that you're going to get a new show. I seriously lately have been going, there's not really anything on Amazon right now. I don't really use Prime. Do I need to keep this? Celebrity Jeopardy's fun, or Pop Culture Jeopardy's fun, but do I need to keep this one? Whereas Hulu constantly has things for me, and I too have that Disney Hulu bundle.
Which Paradise is currently on.
Yeah.
It's on Hulu.
Which
yeah.
is so great.
So good. Such a good show.
So fun. So I feel like this, mostly what we can take from it is make sure you constantly have good content, which I know seems like an obvious yet difficult thing to achieve. But as long as you are continually having things that keep your viewers there, whether it be bringing things out of the vault, so to speak, and having that on your platform, or enticing people with weekly drops, which we have seen do really well with most shows. Certain things do well with a binge, certain things do well when we have that weekly, and that helps with that retention on streamers. But I feel like the big thing here is just make sure your content keeps people around and that they don't dump you the minute that one show is gone.
To that point, I would be very shocked to find out that these companies that go into mergers aren't having coordination meetings on when they're dropping now certain series to
Yeah.
keep that going.
Absolutely.
So like right now, exactly going to that whole model that they have right now with Disney Plus, Hulu, and HBO Max. So we've got Daredevil coming up on Disney Plus. We've got Paradise airing right now. And we've got Last of Us coming up on HBO imminently.
Oh yeah, right.
Then Andor coming on
Andor,
Disney
yep,
Plus.
yep.
I mean, it's just, and for almost half the price of all that, you kind of lose that incentive to cancel and re-sign up because everything's there. It's it'll be,
in the last couple of days, like we've even talked about on the show, about how we're so fortunate as like series fans that these things are coming out in succession. There's probably a plan to that.
what did we say are going to be the 3 shows that are, they're not all starting at the same time, but we're going to all be on at the same time.
Daredevil,
Andor, and
and
Last of Us Season 2.
So you said it.
We're literally going to have a week where I'm going to have 3 nights that I'm going to get to watch absolute premium TV that I'm really looking forward to.
I think you just pulled back the curtain on Oz, honestly.
Yeah, that's it. There it is. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? First of all, are you a churner? I mean, that's a good consumer way if you want to save some money and stuff like that. But would you be incentivized to maybe not churn if you had the proper bundle that appealed to you at a proper price? I mean,
That's a great insult. You're a churner.
It's a people wear it as a badge of honor.
No, Billy, I don't want you going over to Chris's house. That family.
That's a family of churners.
That'd be fair. Stay away, Billy. We're
Yeah.
also
Oh, you know what
stealing
I
the
hear?
Delgado's
It
HBO.
reeks of try hard.
I hear that stupid alien diner
was made.
owner in the Star Wars prequel going, they're cloners.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way,
Churner.
Alien Earth, Hulu.
There you go.
Yeah, that-
Come on, baby.
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh,
coming.
yeah.
But for
Mother Earth is
$29 a
expecting.
month for what you would have to spend $50+ a month, I don't know. Does this look appealing to you? Do you think this is going to help fight churning? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this, shall we? Until Deadpool and Wolverine came around, I was pretty solid that I think Shang-Chi was the best Marvel film they've put out since Endgame. Then Deadpool and Wolverine. Either way, it's a fabulous film. I love it. I've been dying to see a follow-up ever since. And then we had some complications. Destin, who was the director of Shang-Chi, signed up to direct one of the Avengers movies. He was going to direct Kang Dynasty. Well, then they totally changed directions on that. And then we thought, okay, they can get going on Shang-Chi too. Then it came out they're going to give him Spider-Man 4. Now that John Watson stepped away.
Sure.
And he was going to do Spider-Man 4. Okay. But that leaves a lot of people, because they've made it clear they're not changing directors for Shang-Chi 2. So when the hell are we going to get a Shang-Chi season 2? Now, Simu Liu, of course, best known for Kim's Convenience, but also playing Shang-Chi. He was recently being interviewed because he's got that new underwater film he's doing with Woody Harrelson.
Last breath.
Last breath. That opens this week.
That's open. So he was doing an interview with that. And the interviewer from Screen Rant asked him the question, said, hey, is Spider-Man 4 getting in the way here of Shang-Chi 2? And am I going to see Shang-Chi 2 before I'm 30? To which Simu Liu asked, how old are you now? And he said, I'm 24. And then he kind of dodged the question and stuff like that. And he said, no, seriously, are we getting Shang-Chi 2? So the Simu Liu said this: I don't think anything's been impacted by Spider-Man 4. I think I speak to Destin often, and there's nothing coming out of both of us but excitement to make this film. To which Woody Harrelson said, oh my God, that was a beautiful response. And Liu said, see that? I dodged it. So he didn't actually say anything. All right. As somebody who absolutely adores Shang-Chi and have been just scratching at the walls to get a sequel, and I really hope they find some way to bring Mandarin back. They don't need to, but man, I would love it. I am getting kind of impatient. It's been years now since we've had that Shang-Chi 2. And I even kind of think, well, I desperately want Destin to direct Shang-Chi 2. I'm at a point as a fan, I'm willing for somebody else to direct it and all that kind of stuff. So Spider-Man 4 is absolutely having an impact on this. But then I thought about something. And I thought about this. You know what starts shooting in the next month or two? Avengers Doomsday. You know who I think is going to be, not the lead of the film, but you know who I think is going to be playing a part in that film? I think Shang-Chi is going to be playing a role in that film. And then that got me thinking, okay, so even if Destin wasn't doing Spider-Man 4 right now, would they even be in a position that they could shoot Shang-Chi 2? Probably not. Probably not. So I feel pretty good that we're going to get Shang-Chi back on the screen here pretty quick. And even if they weren't doing... Now, I still think we should have had a Shang-Chi 2 last year. Especially in a year where the only theatrical film we got from Marvel was just Deadpool and Wolverine. That being said, I understand there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So, has it impacted it? Yes. But is the impact that big? Considering that I think we're going to see Shang-Chi pretty significantly involved in the next two Avengers films, maybe it didn't impact it that much. I don't know, Chris, you're looking at the situation. You heard Simu's response as well. How big of an impact do you think the Spider-Man 4 development has had on this? Do you think we're going to see Shang-Chi in the next Avengers film? Unravel all this for us.
This feels like a speed bump on the way to getting Shang-Chi 2, as opposed to an absolute blip where he's going to disappear and we're never going to see him again. I feel like you're spinning a lot of plates here, and you got to make all of these characters fit into the next phase of this universe and do so in a very thoughtful way, so we don't have the spaghetti on the wall effect anymore, right? This was a big problem that we've talked about ad nauseum of what does this all mean? What is this all leading to? What is the point of this? Either make them standalones or make them connect. Don't do this wishy-washy nonsense. And I feel like that's the greater issue with all of these films happening. It's frustrating since we got Shang-Chi back in 2021 and it has a, 92 on Rotten Tomatoes?
Something like
Yes,
that.
92. So we obviously are going to get a sequel. It'd be foolish to not get a sequel. It did well. Everyone seemed to really respond. Well, not
They
everyone.
keep teasing about the
Yeah.
rings in other shows and properties they're doing.
We've seen too, and I know that this doesn't mean much, but Shang-Chi also is getting lauded into What If and being put up on a little pedestal on that show as well, which is really great to see. So I feel like we're going to get this film, and I feel like it's going to happen, but he absolutely is going to be part of the Avengers. I mean, come on. He's definitely going to be part of what's happening in Secret Wars. We're going to see him in all these other things moving forward. There is something that even Captain Marvel wanted to know about with those rings.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're finally going to see these pieces come together in a way that should have a good, meaningful impact. And he's just part of this greater puzzle that hopefully will have a good payoff.
Let me ask a question that kind of addresses the elephant in the room here, Rob. You know, we've been wanting Shang-Chi back. It's been a while. They keep referring to the rings and other shows. He's being teased in What If. Destin is doing Spider-Man 4. Is Shang-Chi just going to be a big part of Spider-Man 4? Or if not, do you think he will or will not be a significant part of the Avengers? How do you see them using him moving forward?
Well, look, you and I both have great love for the first Shang-Chi. I really enjoyed it. I've always loved the character. I mean, it wasn't the Paul Gulacy, Doug Mensch version of the character from the 70s, but that's fine. I really like Shang-Chi. I like the fact that Marvel made a wuxia movie. I thought that was great. Here's the thing. Shang-Chi was not a huge box office success. So from a metrics and analytics standpoint, I can understand why it's not right there on the front burner. But I do think that Shang-Chi was a great character. And I think he's absolutely going to be a part. I mean, you know, the fact that his very uniqueness that he was only in one movie, I think people want to see him again. I think that film has grown in stature since the time that we saw it. I think the fact that, as Chris pointed out, he's been a part of What If, and that he's still there, I think bringing him back, it would be a welcome breath of fresh air to see that character. I think that he would put a smile on people's faces. So I think there will eventually be a Shang-Chi after these Avengers films, but probably not till after Secret Wars.
What do you think about the idea of with the Shang-Chi director directing Spider-Man 4 and them being so tight-lipped? Do you think there's a chance we see Shang-Chi playing maybe an Iron Man kind of role? Not as a mentor, but just an Iron Man size kind of role?
Maybe.
Like
I mean,
he
I
was
could.
in No Way Home?
I mean, I could see him.
I meant Homecoming.
Yeah, I think he could be. I mean, he's more of a street level character anyway. Yes, the 10 rings are powerful, but I do think, or the rings, and I could see that happening. But obviously, Spider-Man's on. It's a much bigger priority for Marvel because of how much money the last No Way Home made, $2 billion.
And he is arguably Marvel's most popular character.
Yeah, so I don't even know if Shang-Chi would show up in that Spider-Man movie. I think it's a possibility because the director, but it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't. But I do think that they want to get back to it because it's kind of his, Dustin Creighton. That's his franchise as far as within the franchise, that's his. Kind of the same way you had Peyton Reed doing Ant-Man. So I think they would want to get back together and work together. I think that would make sense. And obviously, you know, the thing about Shang-Chi too is it's not a movie that has to break the bank. You know, with Marvel spending all this amount of money, you can make a movie, I think, for lesser money. And I think that Shang-Chi is a place where you don't necessarily have to have the world ending. And I think that it would be a great, between different huge event movies, a Shang-Chi would be a welcome breath of fresh air for the MCU.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Are they just been delaying this because of Spider-Man 4? Maybe we're just not getting it because he's about to pop up in the Avengers film. He's got to start shooting that. Maybe we see him in Destin's Spider-Man 4 movie. What do you think the immediate future is for Shang-Chi? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that all down, it's time for us to get to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second here and thank another sponsor of today's episode, our friends at Kikoff. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Kikoff. Man, time flies, doesn't it? 1 minute, you're reminiscing about your last vacation, and the next, you're thinking about major life goals, like buying a car, getting that dream home. But if your credit isn't where it needs to be, those goals can feel out of reach. And that's where Kikoff comes in, the #1 credit building app in the App Store that makes it easy, affordable, and stress-free to build credit fast. And that's exactly why I love Kikoff. They give you a credit line for just building credit, not for spending. Your on-time payments get reported to the 3 major credit bureaus, helping you improve your credit mix and payment history, 2 of the biggest factors in credit growth. If your credit is under 600, you could see a jump of about 28 points in your first month. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest, just smart credit building. Building credit can happen faster than you expect with Kikoff. Don't wait. Get your first month for just $1 at getkikoff.com/Campea. That's kickoff without the C. Get 80% off at getkikoff.com/Campea. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/Campea to activate offer. Offer applies to new customers first month only, subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply. Point stat based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0 changes for Kikoff users starting under 600 who made their first on-time payment between January of 2021 and March of 2024. Payment and credit activity outside Kikoff can have an impact on your credit. Individual results may vary. And thank you to our friends at Kikoff for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to get on to, of course, the most important stuff, which is your live comments and questions. Jonathan, what we got up first?
Anonymous says, hey, man, I love your show. I've been watching since I was 15 during the AMC days.
Thank you, man.
26 now. Man, time flies. Anyway, was recently rewatching the 84 film Threads. I was thinking I'd love a remake. The people behind Chernobyl would be great. What do you think? I'm familiar with Threads.
I don't recall Threads.
Also, thanks Shooter McGavin for the super sticker there.
Thank you, Shooter McGavin. Appreciate that, man. I don't recall the film. I would have been 11 when in 84. So I'm not. Yeah. Do we know which one of that
the
is?
The effects of a nuclear holocaust on the working class city of Sheffield, England, and the eventual long-term effects of nuclear war and stuff. So it's a post-apocalyptic film.
Oh, it's a TV movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I never saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one I know from that kind of era about the nuclear stuff was The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or The Day After, whatever it was called. So, but yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really familiar with it, so I can't give commentary on it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right, Surzy. John was wondering if the family you kindly helped during Christmas are doing good and if the kids are okay. Change the subject. Do you see a world where Blade doesn't hit movie form and becomes a TV show like Daredevil?
No.
Ollie was in Luke Cage, so would that mess things up? And then on a completely different note, I think you should have a stand-up comedy special. I would be the first to buy a ticket. Love the dry sense of humor and ability to throw shade at people and make it look not offended. I would consider you more of like a armchair comedian, like how they think of what's his name on Daily Show. You know what I mean?
I know, guys. I've most of my life, a lot of my people in my circle of friends have been stand-up comedians. I cannot do what they do. I simply cannot do that. There is an art to that, and it is not one of the things that's in my tool belt.
I don't think you'd be cut. You don't want to enjoy yourself.
I mean, maybe I could see it's fun. Like I'm very at home on a stage.
Yeah.
I'm very I feel actually more comfortable standing on the stage in Hall H at Comic-Con in front of 5,000 people.
Yeah,
than I am in a small circle of 4 people.
Yeah.
Like I'm way more comfortable on the stage in front of 5,000, right? Like that's but to sit there and try to craft a funny set. I don't know. And the rare occasion that I am funny, it's right off the top of my head. I don't think I could script anything out. There's a skill to that. Don't think just anybody can do it. I certainly could not. As far as our adoptive families, we hear from most of them every once in a while throughout the years. Like again, Ann and I have been doing this for well over 10 years now. We've been doing it with you guys for the last couple. And yeah, every once in a while we get updates from the families and how they're doing, and things are good. So yeah, and again, thank you to everybody who helps us out during our Adopt a Family drives that we do every year. All right, what's next?
Okay, Suthius, here are my top 5 worst comic book superhero movies and shows in the last 5 years. Morbius, Bloodshot, Snake Eyes, Jupiter's, I think he means Ascent. Says
Jupiter
Legacy,
Ascending?
but I think he means Ascending. And Umbrella Academy Season 4. I did not like this season at all, and I have not, will not watch Madam Web and Craven.
I mean, we weren't counting, television shows in that. Does Jupiter Ascending qualify for the last 5 years? I don't think it does.
Let me check.
Yeah, Jupiter. I think
It says
Jupiter.
Jupiter's Legacy, but I don't know what that is.
Oh, Jupiter's
Oh,
Legacy.
oh, you say Jupiter Legacy? Oh,
The
that was
series.
the TV series.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, that was the TV series. That show had a lot of potential.
Didn't that have the Transformers guy?
Yes. Yeah, I'm forgetting his name now. The guy who was married to Fergie.
Right.
And I'm forgetting his name. But yes, that was a show that did have a lot of potential.
Dumel.
Josh Duhamel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like him, by the way.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually
he's
like
great.
him a lot. I think he's really good. But it just, it fell flat. I didn't think it was atrociously bad. I just think it failed to live up to its potential. All right, what's next?
All right. Bryson says, hey, John, I'm a little late to the party as I've been watching season 5 of The Marvelous Mrs. May. I didn't realize it was in season 5.
Such a good show.
And started Fallout. Both are fantastic shows, which just make me more excited for God of War series. Do you know of any recent updates for it?
The only update that matters, was the update that the single greatest showrunner in the business today, Ronald D. Moore, has been tapped to be the showrunner of the new God of War series. That was it. That's all I needed to hear. I don't need to know anything else. The greatest showrunner in television today is running God of War. That's it. I don't need it. That's it. I don't need to know anything else. I will tell you right now, this show's going to be, at very minimum, really good. At minimum, this show's going to be really good, with the potential to sweep Emmys. I mean, so that's it. I don't really know anything else other than that. But yeah, we'll see. All right, what's next?
Rick Tic Tac says, hi, John and company. Any movie core memories from the theater as a kid or teen or adult? For me as a kid, Lion King. Teen would be Dark Knight and Glorious Bastards. As an adult, Whiplash, Endgame on your left. Also, thanks for the rec on Shrinking, binge season 1 in one sitting.
All right, we wait till you see season 2. It's even better. I don't have a lot. I mean, obviously, the earliest memory I have in my life is my mom showing me Star Wars. That was the earliest memory. And then I don't have another memory for like years after that. One of the other really big core ones was my aunt Leonora, my dad's little sister, took me to see Empire Strikes Back. And I remember we were late because we missed the opening crawl.
Oh, man.
And we got into theater just as the Star Destroyer's on screen and they launched the probe droids.
Yeah.
So I kind of missed the first couple of minutes. The other one was the first time my mom and dad, sorry, give me a second.
Well, I can say while you're thinking about that, I was too young for Star Wars. That's 77. I was born in 79. So I didn't get to see something that revolutionized the film industry. But I was old enough by the time Jurassic Park came out that I was in like 9th grade or something, that when that came out, I realized I was watching something that was going to change the industry forever. And I remember going back to like see Jurassic Park like 3 times in theaters. It impressed me a lot.
So what I was going to say was the first time a couple of my friends and I were allowed to go to the movies ourselves. And it was for the Kenny Rogers movie, Six Pack.
Oh, yes.
Don't know why that's the movie we picked to go to.
Dude.
Have no idea why, but I
Oh,
still
boy.
remember that
I love
sense
those
of
movies from the late
Six
70s.
Pack.
that sense of independence was pretty great. Going to see Six Pack.
It's like the same kind of like idea of Bad News Bears. I love that kind of genre. I don't even know what genre that is, but yeah.
All right,
And that
what's
wasn't
next?
just you solo, right? That was you
No,
and
no,
some
no.
friends.
I had some friends.
So you and
but
friends,
without adult supervision.
Yeah.
you and friends decided the one movie.
You know what we got to see?
Six pack.
Six pack.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Alex
That's
says, "Hey y'all, let's see. Oh yeah, sorry. Hey y'all, this won't happen, but Ben Affleck would be a great James Bond. Well, he'll be a great accountant. He can easily bring the suaveness, badassness, and also the dramatic performance. He's a legit, very good actor.
Ben Affleck is legitimately a very good actor. He's a very good actor. I don't see him as, and it's not because he's not British. I honestly don't see him as a good fit for Bond. Not to mention he is 50. He's in his 50s
He's getting
now,
up there
right?
now.
No shit.
Yeah. So I mean, but even that aside, I'm a huge fan of Ben Affleck. I really do like Ben Affleck. I'm unapologetic about that, but I don't see him as a fit for
He
Bond.
could play Felix.
Yeah, he could do that. He could play a role like that for sure.
Alex has another tip here. Hey y'all, I'm a little rusty on my Elvish, so I'll just skip that part. But a star shines upon the hour of our meeting. That is the show. Thank you for always brightening the days with warmth and smiles. May the star of Erendil illuminate your path always.
By the way, you said that very well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you for writing in just to be encouraging. Appreciate that. All right, what's next?
Juanillo says, first, just want to say great job, Campea Crew. Just purchased True Noir and looking forward to it.
Hey, there you go. Of course, that's the new production that Rob has been working. You know, here's the thing. I think Rob underestimated how much work it was going to be to produce an audio drama.
Huge undertaking.
Because when he first came to me,
Yeah, I remember.
he first came to me and said, hey, listen, I think I'm not going to be able to do the show for like the next 2 months. Because I'm going to make this audio drama.
Okay.
And I'm like, cool. I'll say, all right. Yeah, well, that's fine. That turned into like a year and
Yeah.
something.
I forgot. It was like weird having him back. I forgot what it was like. to
Anyway,
have
it
him.
was kind of weird. And it's like, and he's still not done.
No.
He's still tinkering away at it a little bit. But yeah, it turned out to be a much bigger undertaking for him than he
Of course,
first
because
thought.
I figured the idea starts out small, right? And then pieces like start either coming to you or you think of it yourself and just gets bigger and bigger, snowballs into something.
Well, that, and I think, you know, it's not something he'd ever done.
Yeah.
Right. And I talk about this all the time. This is a human condition. Everybody thinks something that they don't do is probably easy. And because honestly, like, I think a lot of people would think, and I think even Rob, with all the production experience he has, probably thought, how hard can it be to put an audio drama? Like, you record the dialogue and you jump into Adobe Audition and edit it together, and there you go. And then as he gets into it, he's realizing there's a lot of work that goes into this.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a lot longer than he thought, but
Yeah.
he was meticulous with it. So
And on top of that, the creative, he's also has the business side of it that he had to handle too.
yep.
So,
And that's a huge part.
Yep.
Something that he's going to have to deal with probably for the next few years.
yeah.
All right. What's next?
Juanillo says with a $20 tip.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
With Kathleen Kennedy leaving Lucasfilm, any chance Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron project will be recycled by new leadership? What projects would you try to recoup from Kennedy's trash bin?
I could see that happening
It just seems so obvious.
because the Rogue Squadron
Yes.
idea doesn't necessitate the continuation of any of the existing storylines,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't necessitate carrying on the Poe, Finn, and Rey story or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's essentially its own standalone thing, right? And so, listen, everybody got excited. That was a great announcement when they announced that movie, and I could see that happening. Again, it'll all depend on what the vision of the new CEO is going to be, the new president of Lucasfilm will
Yeah.
be. And by the way, we're still probably maybe 6-7 months away from that leadership change happening. You know, the report just said by the end of 2025. Well, guess what? It's still only February. So it's going to be a while still. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says best 5 comic book movies of the last 5 years would be 5 Blue Beetle, Shang-Chi, the Batman, then Eternals, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Honorable mention would be both Marvel one-shots and Old Guard, which was comic-based. Those are actually really kind of sleeper hits, and I agree with all of them. They're
I
great.
like that. I like that. I like that list. So yeah, I like that list. It's a good. I mean, it's a little. I mean, obviously, to me, it's not a list until Deadpool and Wolverine is on it. So yeah. Anyway, all right. What's next?
Venom's dentist. My wife and I grew up with Lilo and Stitch, so naturally we're very excited about the live action remake. The part I'm most curious or nervous about is what Pleakley and Jamba are going to look like in live action. Is it weird we haven't seen any more looks? Let's see.
I don't think it's all that weird yet. I think we're gonna get a big trailer drop. By the way, remember this is still an adaptation.
Uh-huh.
There is a possibility they may not use certain characters that were in the original in this. Now, obviously, it seems obvious that they would do those too. I'm just saying, don't get married to the idea. But we'll see when we get that first trailer finally dropped.
Yeah, that'll be pretty soon.
Yeah.
So.
All right, what's next?
BMC says James Gunn hinted we might see the DCU Batman sooner than we think. My money's on a Clayface cameo, but could you imagine him showing up in Superman?
I'm sorry, I missed that whole thing.
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. So James Gunn hinted we might see the DCU Batman sooner than we think.
Right.
His money's on Clayface, but it could be in Superman.
No, I don't think it's going to be in Superman.
Like any hints of him? Nothing.
I mean, hints of him.
Yeah.
You might get a Bruce
a
Wayne
reference, a bat signal in the sky, but the actual actor who's playing Batman appearing in it, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, because we already got, technically speaking, we already got a glimpse of him in Creature Commandos. It was just a black silhouette, but still. But listen, if James Gunn managed to slip Batman into this movie and keep it off everybody's radar, good for you, man. If you were able to sneak that in there and have nobody know about it, that'd be impressive. But yeah, I don't think, I mean, maybe, but Clayface seems like an odd place to introduce Batman in such what will be like a side kind of project to introduce Batman.
Has Bruce Wayne ever used disguises in like any
I'm sure he has.
any Batman, like animated series, whatever?
Oh yeah.
Well, okay. I'm just saying.
100%. All right, what's next?
Lucas says, John, been trying to find the episode in which you sing the intro to 500 Miles. Can't find it. Can you just sing it really quick? It sounds too good in your voice.
No, I did not do it. But you know what? Maybe like one of these days, the show may start. And instead of hearing greetings and salutations, you'll see me with my guitar and I'll do the Proclaimers.
There you go.
500 miles.
Yeah, there you go.
It'll happen at some point.
We're all waiting.
Maybe. We'll see. All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous says, my girlfriend broke up with me yesterday. Sorry about that. On my way home, after we split, I had to buy groceries. I guess that's just life then. I know I'm only 23 and I was only 6 months, but doesn't make it any better. I'm glad my family and friends are being helpful, though.
Wait a second. Wait. Hold on, John. Wait a second. So he was dating this girl for 6 months, and she was already buying him groceries?
No, you didn't listen to any of it.
He went off to buy
okay.
groceries.
Okay, I was about to say, geez. That's really deep, really fast.
She wore a trench coat too, right?
Oh, well.
Listen, there's nothing that I can say that isn't going to sound trite. I mean, because when you're in the situation, it feels like the most awful thing in the world.
Yeah.
So me telling you, oh, dude, you're 23, but I mean, to you, that's going to sound pandering, or it's going to sound like I'm talking down to you because you're in it right now. So it's, I get it. All I can say is that believe me when I tell you that this isn't good. You're not going to look back on this as a big deal, like maybe even a few months from now.
It'll be a blip.
Yeah. I mean,
but he's right.
Life progresses. We move on.
He said it himself. He said, that's life. It is life. You're going to go to the grocery store. You're going to go to work. You're going to hang out with your friends. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have tragic days that have nothing to do with this girl.
But again, I'm not taking away at all that when you are the 23-year-old and you just broke up, it feels awful.
Yeah.
I'm not taking any of that away. Of course. You know, it's so funny you mentioned that though, because last night, Ann and I, before bed, we decided to play a little Parks and Rec roulette where we decided we were snacking on something, decided to put on a show. Mm-hmm. And it was an episode where Tom Haverford, Aziz, talks about, my girlfriend broke up with me, but it's okay. Because as a guy, you can just say she was crazy. Hey man, I heard your girlfriend broke up with you. Yeah, turns out she's crazy. That's That's what he says in the show. So now I can just picture you. Oh, I'm so sorry, your girlfriend. Yeah, turns out she's crazy. Just tell everybody she's crazy. You can do that. Follow the Tom Haverford thing on life. All right, what's next?
Mark Choi with a $20 tip says, "Hey,
Thank
John,
you, man, for that support.
in Captain America 4, Isaiah says Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. When I heard that, my ears perked up. Thunderbolt Ross. Does Ross have anything to do with the Thunderbolts? Yes, I do not know the comics. Thanks for all you do."
I don't think he's going to have anything to do with the Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that is Thaddeus Ross's nickname, Thunderbolt Ross. But I think at the end of the day, it's not going to have anything to do with the name. I mean, maybe they're going to see it was like an extension of a project that Ross was setting up. But
before he was incarcerated or whatever.
I don't think they will. I mean, they might. I'm not saying I heard that they're not. I'm just saying this is just me guessing as a fan, wildly speculating. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with
Or
it.
maybe it's just Red. It's just like Red Guardian just loves it, and everyone's like, "This is stupid," and Red Guardian likes the name. Who knows?
All right, what's next?
Mark Choi has a 3-parter. Okay, so when great pilots fly spaceships in movies, especially when dodging obstacles while being chased, many maneuvers seem impossible, but awesome. I suspended my disbelief by giving the excuse that advanced technology does most of the flying. Well, the amazing documentary, The Blue Angels, surprised the crap out of me when I realized the pilots do not use computer-assisted flying. One of the group formation maneuvers requires 5 jets be in mere inches apart from one another. Incredible. The film never mentions there's anything that assists the pilots, which means the humans are doing this. Does this mean that they should just accept that I should just accept that the movie pilots fly spaceships with their skills alone? Thank you for all you do. I would. And yes, they don't use computer assisted. That is the humans flying those jets.
You went to go see
He
this
saw
movie.
that. You
Ray,
saw that
didn't
Blue
you?
Angels.
The Blue Angels.
Yeah,
documentary?
we did. Well, what's crazy was the next week it was already on Amazon.
Yeah,
But
it
there's
was a
nothing like
documentary.
seeing it in like IMAX screen. It was very interesting, except it kind of fell off towards the end because a lot of the amazing stuff like you saw right away, and then getting to know the pilots and stuff and things like that. But all the closeness, it kind of wore off towards the end. That's all I gotta say. But it was still amazing to watch. It's short. I think it's only an hour long. I don't know.
I would say we're talking about a sci-fi fantasy film of spaceship fighters and what you should believe or not believe.
I mean, you can't really turn in space like that. So
or maybe the technology exists that you can.
yeah.
I mean,
But I mean, if
also
you're
in
gonna
these
suspend
shows,
disbelief.
when a ship passes by another, you go, "Phew!" Well, technically, there's no sound in space.
There is in certain galaxies far, far away.
Yes, and there can be fire and combustion and all that kind of.
There'd be accidents all over the place.
I would honestly say it's not really something I would worry about thinking about.
Yeah.
I wouldn't spend my time thinking about whether or not these. I mean, by the way, if you want to go back, just to carry on the nerdom of it, if you got somebody who was a major NBA player from 50 years ago and look at what some of the players can do today, they would say that's unbelievable. Like, you can't do that. Well, they can. Athletes get better. People get better at different things. Records were made to be broken, and maybe these sci-fi pilots 1,000 years from now can pilot like that. Again, we're talking about sci-fi fantasy movies, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got a 2-parter. But John, everybody thought the final death of physical media was when Samsung announced they were cutting Blu-ray players. That was 6 years ago. It's been so long that Mahershala Ali was announced as Blade 4 months after Samsung quit. Got to get the Blade in there. Samsung quit. Physical media just won't die. And then he says, at this point, maybe instead of asking the question, is physical media dying, we may need to ask the question, why hasn't physical media died?
It has.
Yeah, we got streaming, no players, no stores, but Blu-ray movies are still in production.
Barely.
Yeah, there will always
For,
become
Like,
niche.
here's the thing. Like, if you're looking for a finish line, like that's when physical media died on that date. Ever since that announcement, year after year, as Rob has explained several times, year after year, exponentially, sales of every form of physical media have dropped into the gutter. I mean, don't take it from me. Like, Rob is the one who explains
Right.
this with the data. Like, So ever since then, like the way you phrase the question almost suggests that, hey, well, that happened 6 years ago and everything has stayed the same.
No.
It hasn't. It's been this. And since that happened, as predicted, more and more companies stopped producing. We just recently did a thing where like the last remaining company creating burnable disc media has stopped production now.
Rest in peace, those spindles.
Ever
Sophia.
since then, more and more chains have announced they're not going to be carrying Blu-rays anymore. More and more companies announced they're stopping making Blu-ray players. So like, again, the way the question was phrased, you make it sound like, oh, that happened and then nothing happened. Everything's been the same. Nope. It's been this. Sales, production, distribution, everything has been this constant downward trend. Now, if you're looking for an end date, I don't think there ever will be a definitive end date. Like record players are still around, right?
Of course. It's just going to be a small
But
niche.
ask me if the record industry is alive and thriving. It is not.
No, for certain niche audiences.
It might be
and
more
that's
than,
what physical media is going to become. It's going to become for small niche audiences.
I mean, it might be more for record players are doing better than actual Blu-rays.
The actual Blu-rays.
But
Because you can just play this music and move on.
I think it's gonna last. Like even if we don't see them in the stores, like me, I would buy a Blu-ray if there was something like really special about it. I would still consider it. It would probably get to a point where if you want a Blu-ray, it would be a special order, and they wouldn't be in the stores. You just have to order it, and then they'll make it just for you.
And then
you know what I mean?
And then my fear is players. So why would I go and buy Blu-ray if I can't find a player eventually?
You know what a great example of this is? Here's what it is. Go to House of the Dragon season 1.
Uh-huh.
What was the king's name? Viserys?
Yeah, serious.
Like the moment he sat down on that Iron Throne in that episode and we saw him scratch himself on the blade, every time we saw him in the show, he got more and more decrepit, worse and worse. He's basically a dead man walking, right? To the point where finally, like, his throat's gone, his eyes gone. But that's physical media.
Okay.
It is. He didn't, like, before his actual death, he didn't die, but every time you saw him, it was getting worse. And every time we look in on the data on physical media, again, Rob is the one who points this out. Every time you look in on the data of physical media, it's King Viserys getting more and more, I shall sit the throne today. That's physical media.
He's the reason for all the drama.
And then after he passed, streaming came out of his chambers and said, he said, I'm king. He said, streaming's king.
He said it. He said, I'm king. It's all good. Again, this is not me making an argument that we shouldn't have physical media. It's not a question of should or shouldn't. It's a matter of is.
Yeah.
Physical media is on a rapid death knell decline. It is. That's the data. You don't have to agree with me. That's the data. So anyway. All right, what's next?
$20 tip from Mark Choi.
Thank you, Mark.
John, let me save you some time. Don't see Monkey. I almost walked out, a waste of my time. Instead, Dog Man.
Dog Man.
You dissed me in last week about it, but I saw it again. Every joke and gag still held up. Time well spent.
Let me be clear. Why does everybody say if I say I'm not interested in seeing that, they take that as me personally dissing them?
And they have to take it as a challenge to make you do it.
Like, I love that you loved it. That's great. I have no desire to see
he will not see it, Mark. I'm
not
sorry.
The target audience.
I'm sorry. The only person that could probably get him to it would have to be probably on streaming, and Ann is probably the only person with enough power.
Yeah, like
maybe.
Ann is watching it.
Ann
Maybe.
said, John, we're gonna go see Dogman tonight.
Yeah, you're gonna go.
So I will work on Ann for you.
Because at the very
us.
least, you get to have popcorn. So
Yeah, here's the thing. You want to know how true what you just said is?
Oh, I know how true.
This is how true what you just said is. There are members of my own family that know there's something they want from me, like whether it's to be at a certain thing or to do a certain thing, and they fear there's going to be any resistance. They don't call me.
they send in.
Yeah,
They call Ann.
the real warrior,
My sisters will call
the
Ann.
soldier.
I mean, that's pretty much how true. Listen, we all know who the boss is.
Yeah, so start directing these super chats to
To
Ann.
Ann. All right, what's next?
Lestat 2000 with a $20 tip.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
My worst comic book movies is from the first half of the 20s. The Crow, Joker 2, Birds of Prey, Black Widow, The Marvels. I haven't seen Madame Web and Morbius. Just wait till you do, man.
Yeah, I did. I mean, bring that up again. I didn't like.
Down there.
Okay, so Birds of Prey didn't like Black Widow. I didn't mind Black Widow.
Nor did I.
Didn't mind it.
I didn't like Taskmaster in it, but
And you know what? I will still argue for the Marvels. The Marvels wasn't a bad little movie.
you take out that weird musical planet, and I really liked it.
I'm with everybody on that.
you take
That
that
was
out?
a very. I got it. They were trying to be creative.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes you swing and miss.
It was just
And
awkward.
I thought that swung and miss, but it was actually a passable. It was a passable,
It had
decent
fun-
little
Yeah.
movie. That
It
wasn't
had-
special.
It
I'm
had-
not going to go back and watch it again every year, but
Yeah.
I will defend that movie. I actually think by the end of the day, it actually wasn't all that bad.
Classic Marvel comedy. I still laugh when like she's falling and Samuel Jackson's like, it's cool. She had a shield. Or remember
Yeah.
when she hits the thing?
Like, I wouldn't change my flight if that's the only movie they played on a 14-hour trip.
You wouldn't change your flight.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. Nor would
Like, I wouldn't.
You know who saved the movie for me is Iman Vellani.
Right, of course.
She was absolutely charming in that. I really liked her in it. So again, do I think it's a great movie? Absolutely not. But I will defend that movie. It's better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. Anyway, what's next?
Okay, let's see. Okay, oh, and I just did this thought. Torres says, I never understood giving, this is kind of interesting. I never understood giving Kathleen all the credit for Force Awakens' huge box office.
Nobody on the planet gives her all the credit for
No,
it.
people weren't going to see it for the producer. She's the executive. They were going to see it for Star Wars, for the characters and franchise George Lucas created. Why not credit George? He didn't make it.
George made a bunch of movies and none of them made anywhere near that much money.
Yeah.
Look, what I'm saying is that everything from who was in it, how it was put together, then how it was marketed, getting everybody excited about it, all that kind of stuff, that all comes from the studio head, right? Do they deserve all the credit? Absolutely not. They don't deserve all the credit. Absolutely not. But the same people who would jump up and say, well, she doesn't deserve all the credit. Well, then you can't give her all the blame when something goes wrong.
Ooh.
You
Yeah.
can't have it both ways. That's why I do both. It's like, hey, when the good things happen, she gets a portion of the credit. When bad things happen, she gets a good portion of the blame. You don't get to go, I want to give her credit but no blame. And then what you see a lot of losers doing, I want to give her all the blame but none of the credit for when something went right. No, you're absolutely brain dead if you think that. I'm not saying you're thinking that way. I'm just saying you're a brain dead person if you think that way. That's why I've always been very clear that when I've been calling for the last 5-6 years that Kathleen Kennedy needed to go, I'm always very careful to also point out all the wins that she's had. There have been wins. There have absolutely been wins. And this idea, see, here's what discredits us. One of the biggest fallacies amongst all movie fans is the notion of just put this movie out, whatever movie it is, and it's automatically $1 billion film. There seemed to be that kind of mentality around this, that just put out a Star Wars movie and it'll be $1 billion film. That has been disproven so many times. Because let's take, for example, Batman versus Superman. That movie should have been a $1 billion film in its sleep. But I would go further and say, you put out a movie called Batman versus Superman, that should be a movie that not automatically, but should challenge to be a $2 billion film. That movie should have the potential to be a $2 billion film. A $1 billion film shouldn't even be a discussion. That should just be a given. That should be an automatic. It should challenge to be a $2 billion film. And we've seen many examples of this, where a movie comes out that a lot of people would say, oh, you just put anything, put that out, it'll just be it. No. You got to do a lot of things right. You got to do a lot of things right for a movie to become a $1 billion film, let alone a $2 billion film. And with The Force Awakens, they did a lot of things right. A lot of people like John Schnepp and me and a bunch of others, we not only did we go to see it, we went to go back to see it 4, 5, 6 times because it was really entertaining and really fun. people kept going back, bringing other people to go see it. It was marketed properly. As a studio head, they understood how to capture the nostalgia with the audience, get everybody excited about it. That's not an easy thing to do, and get them all to come into the theaters. And they did it. They accomplished it. Does Kathleen Kennedy deserve all the credit for that? Absolutely not. Does she deserve a portion of the credit for that? Absolutely she does. And everybody keeps forgetting that George Lucas, who hallowed be thy name, will always be, I will always have a shrine to George Lucas in my house as long as I live. He's a GOAT. He's best ever. But everybody today forgets he nearly destroyed Star Wars. He ran it into the ground. Again, everybody's forgetting about people coming out of his prequel movies, taking off their Jedi robes and literally lighting them on fire. And documentaries being made about like the people versus George Lucas and how George Lucas ruined Star Wars. I mean, it was stupid to say at the time. People saying, he ruined our childhood. That was a dumb thing to say, but people were saying it. Everybody forgets that. So yes, Kathleen Kennedy deserves a lot of the blame for things that have gone horribly wrong with Star Wars, but she also deserves a good portion of the credit for the parts that did work. And you have to be a rational adult and a rational human being to look at it. But anyway, that's just kind of my take on it. All right, what's next?
All right, Gator with a little tongue-in-cheek humor here. I'm glad Kennedy's treacherous reign has come to an end. The Star Wars killer. I thought Rogue One, Andor, and Mando season 1 were pretty good. Other than that, it's been a rough 10 years. P.S. Speaking of, the prequels are awesome. A lot of us 90s kids and 2000 kids love them.
There's not as many of you as we think
I
there
do
are.
like the
They're a loud
prequels,
minority.
but I've never.
There's one thing to be like out of nostalgia. I love a lot of crap movies out of nostalgia. But to be like, oh, that's peak cinema. Really, it was such wooden acting. The writing was boring. The directing was subpar.
Jesus.
I just remember the look of absolute horrific stun on people's faces coming out of the prequel movies. Like the absolute disillusionment, kind of like the look that was on my face coming out as The Rise of Skywalker. What the fuck was that? Yeah, me. Yeah, listen, again, I would add to that Skeleton Crew. I would add to that. Not much else. Yeah, listen.
Rogue One. I give Solo a
Rogue
pass.
One Andor. I give Solo a pass. Solo was a fun. I call it a fun space adventure movie. Not great though.
Can you guys believe I still haven't watched The Rise of Skywalker?
You don't have to. It's so bad.
I was waiting for a good review.
Bad.
It's one of those where like you haven't seen
I was waiting for a good review and it never came.
Yeah.
I mean, just the reality was, look, I'll say this. Things could have been worse, but they were still bad. Like this era of Star Wars has had some bright spots, has had some wins, but at the end of the day, it failed. The fan base is just as divided as they were coming out of the prequels. It's the confidence level of the overall properties dropped because we keep getting crap like the Book of Boba Fett or Ahsoka or the Acolyte or whatever. Rob made a really good point yesterday saying Star Wars has now become a TV franchise and not a particularly good one.
Hit and miss.
She needed to go
Hit, miss.
years ago. Years ago, she needed to go. But anyway. All right, what's next?
All right. We got Forbidden, who says, apparently it looks like the new TVA comic is tied into the MCU, which one of this issues hinting a certain MCU's character's fate. Tying things on TV is one thing, but comics too. Normally I would ignore it. Same time, feels like comics have scoops now.
Nah.
They're loosely.
No, like it's here's the thing. If they do something in the comic now, it might be carried over. Never look at anything in the comic and think, oh, if that's in the comic, that means it's going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So, or even if it is it that critical?
Again, so like, don't ever believe that, because Kevin Feige himself has talked about how, they were making changes to the comics to reflect the realities of what's going on in the MCU, but they are not beholden to them. They are still their own thing. So yeah, you might see something that pop up in a comic and they may actually use that in the movies. But don't think for a second that if it's in the comic, that means it's going to be in the movies. That's a really big distinction. All right, what's next?
We got a two-parter from Amin. This is interesting. If Anora wins Best Picture, it would join Shape of Water, Departed, Million Dollar Baby, and Braveheart as the only films to win without the Globe, SAG, or BAFTA since SAG began. Also, only one film has ever won the DGA, PGA, and WGA, and not one Best Picture. That's Brokeback Mountain. It's interesting. It's a very tight race. Anora's PGA DGA combo does give it the edge, especially since it will likely take Best Director, but Best Picture will be close. In my opinion, the odds now stand at Anora 48, Conclave 43, Brutalist 7%, all others 2.
I think you're underestimating Brutalist's chances.
Me too.
I'm not saying Brutalist is going to win,
But I
but
think it has a better chance than Even Actor, and I think Even Actor, it's a high chance.
I ain't giving it a 7%.
Yeah.
I think you are underestimating its chances. You're right. I mean, this is actually turning out to be an extremely interesting Oscars because, again, I think Best Supporting Actor is locked up. That's Culkin. So there's that. And maybe Best Supporting Actress may be locked up with Zoe Saldana. Other than that, I've got no idea, man. I have no, like, Brutalist, Conclave, Anora. I think it's definitely going to be one of those three. Best Lead Actor with Timothée Chalamet now winning the SAG. That's blown wide open.
Exactly.
Best Actress, you got Mikey and you got Demi. So, I mean, I think that's a 2-horse race, but I have no idea which of those two are going to get it. I also think the director for Brutalist has a real shot. And so the director race, I have no idea. I am going into this year's Oscars with more uncertainty, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's
but
exciting.
With more uncertainty than I can recall in Oscars in years.
Yeah.
That makes it that exciting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It
does.
makes kind of exciting.
100% it does.
All right, what's next?
Dante, hey guys, have you watched Paradise? Watched episode 7 last night, and it's great. Shout out to James Marsden for an incredible series-long performance. Also, Reacher is pretty good too, though I can't help but see Batman, especially after episode 3. Is this season 2 or 3 of Reacher?
We are now in season 3
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
of Reacher, and I have watched the first 2 episodes. And I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't started watching it, but something happens in episode 1. I'm like, that's really dumb. Reacher wouldn't do that. And then it kind of becomes, oh my God. Anyway, I'm really liking Reacher. And yes, we've talked about Paradise a lot. I'm really enjoying. As of last night, I'm 2 episodes behind.
I'm further because I'm still getting through the Jackal. So
I loved the Jackal.
great performances.
How far into it are you now?
I'm like 3 episodes. So
dude,
yeah.
It gets better and better and better.
Yeah, I love
with
Eddie
a
Redmayne in this. Yeah.
terrific ending. If it wasn't for the fact that it was on Peacock,
Yeah.
more people should be talking about the Jackal. Eddie Redmayne, Lynch.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Now I gotta look.
Why am I freezing our first name? Anyway, Eddie Redmayne, brilliant in it.
Right.
It's so good. If you guys haven't been watching the Jackal, it is worth signing up for Peacock for. It's a great show. You should
Lashana
absolutely
Lynch.
go. Lashana Lynch. Thank you. You should absolutely check it out. Everybody in it's absolutely remarkable.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Lord Helmet with a 2-parter. It's a sure thing that many Star Wars projects in development will be canned. So many have already been canned when the new head of Lucasfilm comes in. Although I hope Donald Glover's Lando film gets made. But I also wouldn't be shocked if some things like the High Republic stuff, including the Acolyte, gets moved to Legends. John, I know you're against doing stuff like that, but a lot of things were moved to Legends in a soft reboot of Star Wars timeline during the Force Awakens development, and we all know another soft reboot is coming. Thoughts?
Nothing was moved to Legends because everything was already non-canon. Like, I've had this argument with people and thoroughly won the argument because it is what it is. Like, the novels were never G canon.
No, ever.
The novels were never G canon. Now, I'm only going to touch on this briefly, but a lot of people forget that under George Lucas, there was a very convoluted, messy, ridiculous rating systems of canon that was just ridiculous. but it was their kind of way of justifying why some things were truly canon, what's sort of canon, what's mildly canon, and what in no way is canon. And they had all these different levels. But the only thing that was true, what we would call canon, was what's referred to as called G canon.
G unit.
That was G for George.
Yeah.
And that was
gangsta.
only stuff that happened in the movies. There could be stuff that happened in other forms of media that were kind of 80% canon. But again, to me, canon is not something that can be partial. A girl isn't sort of pregnant. She's either pregnant or she's not. If something's canon, then it's canon. If it's not, it's not. There's no such thing to me as 50 or 40%. So no, nothing was moved to Legends. It was never canon to begin with.
Right.
It was never true G canon to begin with.
And then moving forward, they made everything canon. Like new stuff was all
then
canon.
new stuff becomes canon because it's, the way they did. So first of all, I don't see them moving the High Republic stuff to Legends because number one, it's already canon. You can't uncanon something. I guess you could if you really wanted to, but generally you shouldn't do that. So you can't uncanon something. But secondly, there's no need to uncanonize it because it's set in the High Republic.
Right.
It doesn't affect your storytelling moving forward at all. That's why, as bad as I say the prequels are, when the debate comes up that they should just get rid of the prequels and get rid of the sequels and all that kind of stuff, I say, you know what? No, because they are canon. They're canon. So you don't touch them. Yeah, maybe you have an idiot uncle, but that idiot uncle is still family. Still family. You might be embarrassed by them. They might ruin every family get together, but they're still family. And that's what the prequels are. They're the idiot uncle of the Star Wars family, but they're family. You keep them. So no, I don't think they move the High Republic stuff into Legends because number one, you shouldn't because it's canon. But number two, there's no need to move it to Legends because it's set in a completely isolated time frame. So you can move on without there being any repercussions of it really. Anyway, that's just my take on it. All right, what's next?
Save Legends for tomorrow. Says, John, I know you've said it. It's unlikely, but with a new head of Lucasfilm coming soon, I'd love to see Cameron Monaghan's Cal Kestis in live action. Hell, why not adapt the games? They have a better story than anything Disney has put out. Anyway, thoughts?
It does not have a better story than anything else Disney's put out. It is not a better story than Rogue One. It's not a better story than Andor. It's a good story, but here's what happens a lot of the time. Stories in video games are wrapped around gameplay. And then when what did you say at dinner last night, Ray? Reduce. When you do a reduction.
Yeah, reduction.
And you burn away the gameplay and all you're left with is a story. Normally in a video game, people are often surprised to find out it's actually not that deep of a story. I personally do really like the story of Cal in the Fallen Order stuff. I think it's a very, very good story, but it's not better than anything they've done. You could, but then you're only really appealing to the video game players. And I don't know if you go backwards like that. Let's put it this way. If they were to announce tomorrow that a Denis Villeneuve was coming over and he was going to adapt Fallen Order into a live action film, would I be on board for that? Yeah, I'd be on board for that. 100% I would be. But do I think it's the direction they need to look at doing? I have a feeling, much like when a new GM comes into a sports organization, they kind of clean house and they want to put their own identity on things. I have a feeling, and I might be right, I might be wrong. I'm just guessing, that once they do hire a new president for Lucasfilm, I don't think their first priority is going to be going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we had this popular video game 4 years ago. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think it would necessarily be a mistake to do it. I'm just saying I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to want to put their own DNA on the Star Wars properties and move forward. That's my guess at any rate. But again, I wouldn't be against it. I certainly wouldn't be against it. All right, what's next?
Well, Patrick says, happy birthday, John. But I think he might have thought, because it was Ryan's birthday the other day, but...
It's mine today.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It's actually my birthday today. Wasn't mentioned, but thank you. I appreciate that very much. And yesterday was our friend Ryan's birthday.
Okay, that's why I was confused. All right.
All right, what's next?
Ryan Verada says, rest in peace to Roberto Orci. I read Akiva Goldsman is bringing back Irwin Allen sci-fi properties, the time tunnel voyage of to the bottom of the sea and the land of the giants. Just keep it sci-fi, no funny stuff like The Boys, Tiny Man and the Giant Thing.
Hey, listen, if you can find a way to also make it hilarious, by all means do it. By the way, I know they said they're developing that. There's a big difference between looking to develop something and then actually studio green lighting it and say, okay, here's the $150 million to make it.
Right.
I doubt most of those will ever get to screen, if any, but we'll see. All right, what's next?
Blake with a two-parter. Hey, John, happy birthday. So regarding the Spider-Man 4 situation, do you think it might get delayed because it comes out 2 weeks after Nolan's The Odyssey, and there's no way Nolan is giving up some of those IMAX screens, especially considering Nolan's relationship with IMAX? And the fact that if Marvel forgoes those screens, they are leaving potential hundreds of millions of dollars.
There's no IMAX movie that made hundreds of millions of dollars
on the table, especially when Spider-Man No Way Home made almost $2 billion, but not in IMAX.
Yeah, no. They might lose out on a tiny bit. Listen, they scheduled it knowing when The Odyssey was coming out.
Yeah, and it was pushed.
Yeah, and it's 2 weeks difference. And would they lose a little bit of money from not being on IMAX? Sure, but those people are just going to go see it in another screen then, and in another format, and maybe premium formats. So I really don't think that is anything that Kevin Feige or anybody over at Marvel are losing sleep over. I really don't. Listen, IMAX movies can make a good amount of money on the scale that IMAX is on. But IMAX's scale is like this big. So it's really not going to make that big of a difference, I don't think. Especially since there are other high ticket price premium formats, from 4DX to Dolby Cinema and AMC Prime and all that kind of stuff. They'll just move on to those screens and they'll be okay. I don't think they're going to make any move for it. All right, what's next?
Curious Chris, not gonna lie, I would crap my pants if Lucasfilm ever announced a film adaptation of Knights of the Old Republic. While I think it would be a challenge to properly translate a video game plot to film, the bones of the story I think would make the compelling movie.
See, that is the exact way a fan should look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. Too many zealots are like, no, you have to do this exactly the way. No. Your attitude is perfect. Take the bones of it, build a story around it. Take the bones of the story, take the skeleton of it, and then pack the meat on it and create something out of that. That's the approach. That's the right approach. And remember, they planned on doing some Old Republic stuff, and then they, like everything else Star Wars has announced, gets canceled. So remember how I said I don't think they're going to want to move backwards and like revisit a 4 or 5 year old video game? Again, I'm just guessing about that. Old Republic, though, that remains a rich gold mine for a new creator to come and say, you know what, we haven't done yet. We have not explored the Old Republic. We haven't really gone and done that. And I think that might be one of the first things that they might want to look at doing, because again, it's so far in the past that it's totally dissociated from anything in the current movies. So it's a golden opportunity. I really think they should and probably will do that. All right, what's next? R2L says, hey, John, there's a report going on about Zaslav furious about Joker 2's box office and critical failure, and he's upset at Pam and Mike DeLuca. He's also upset at some films being too over budget, Joker 2 being 200 million compared to 50. I don't know that he'd still be upset by now. I mean, the movie's old. Newsflash. Studio head upset at bomb. Of course. You don't think Bob Iger, wherever the CEO at the time was, wasn't really furious at the Marvels only making like $200 million? Do you think the head of any... Of course, he had a really expensive movie, one that was an Academy Award winner in his first one. Of course he'd be upset about it, but then you move on. You have lots of other movies. Oh my God, there's a report that the head of the studio was mad that a movie lost them a lot of money. Well, yeah, of course. That's true of every studio whenever there's a big flop that loses the studio money. 100%. But if you think for a second that David Zaslav is still losing sleep over it today, they would be very wrong about that. All right, what's next?
We got Rebel Moon Made of Cheese says, Snyder Bros pushed the idea that a gun Superman needs to do $1 billion. Early streaming out of theaters, Marvel even having some flops, and superhero genre itself is in a slump. Do you think 500 million worldwide is what execs hope it does launching new verse?
I think you got to be, again, I've been saying this for a long time. I think you have to be realistic. The reality is that there is a lot of DC brand rehabilitation that needs to be done. The movie-going audience completely abandoned the DC property movies. They completely abandoned them. By the end, some of them were struggling just to even make $200 million. On top of that, there's a bunch of people who inexplicably to me didn't like Henry Cavill's Superman, who I believe is the best Superman of all time. That stuff doesn't just disappear. All that baggage doesn't just disappear because you're relaunching a new franchise. It's still there. It's your new franchise's mission and job to rehabilitate, to change people's minds, to get people who had jumped off to jump back on. And so I think it's unrealistic to think that the box office is going to be too terribly high. Like it might, but that's why I tell people, like some people saying, oh man, if the new Superman doesn't make $1 billion, no, listen, I keep telling people, if the new Superman can make $500 million and be the start of an upward trajectory, you take that as a win and they will be very happy with it. You know why? Because unlike small-minded people, they don't think about, the people at DC are not just thinking, and Warner Brothers are not just thinking about the Superman movie. They're thinking about the next 20 movies. They want Superman to set up that future movies can make way more money. That's the goal. It's not doing well financially with one movie. It's doing well financially with 20 movies. You worry about the $1 million. People with bigger picture minds are thinking about the tens of billions of dollars. There's an old saying that talks about being penny wise and dollar foolish. Just worrying about the box office of Superman is being penny wise but dollar foolish. You got to look at the big picture, and that's what they're doing. All right, what's next?
Let's see. R3L says, hey, John, I think most fans online are obsessed with studio politics, especially when it comes to Disney, Marvel, and WBDC. Some, especially on the DC side, treat it as their own personal problem when it has nothing to do with them. Should they stop worrying?
Well, here's the thing. Like when you're a fan of something, you partially identify with it, right? So like as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, when I see somebody else wearing a Maple Leafs jersey, repping the Maple Leaf, I'm like, yeah, like it's because I identify with that a bit, right? I identify with that a bit.
Like what?
Like Ray, as if
every time I'll see every now and then I'll see someone with a Bengals jersey and I'll be like, who they? And sometimes they don't hear me and they're like, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But I mean, so there's part of that. But here's the problem. Unhealthy fandom crosses a line with just like identification to embodiment, which is like, say I love a movie. Like I love Man of Steel. I love it. And somebody can tell me that they hate Man of Steel. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. I'm glad. I'm sorry you didn't like it, man. I love Man of Steel personally, right? But unhealthy fandom goes, wait a minute. I loved Man of Steel, and you're saying you didn't like it? You're saying you didn't think it was good? Well, you're attacking me.
Mm-hmm.
You're attacking me.
It's like, not really, man.
Yeah.
At all.
It's like, grow the fuck up.
I'm filing a police report right now.
Kind of like just earlier in the show, somebody wrote in, John, you were dissing me and Ray for not like, I didn't diss you
were,
or
John.
Ray. I just said
Jeez.
I have no interest in seeing Dogman.
all he said was Dogman's for pussy boys.
That's right. Right?
Oh, you
But
too,
that's
huh?
where the
wanna
unhealthy
see it.
line gets, right? That's where the unhealthy line comes. It comes when it's like, wait a minute, you don't like something I like? That means you're attacking me. That means you're saying I'm stupid. It's like, no, it's just you like something and I didn't. No big deal. Anyway, it's that mentality that gets all wrapped up then in the behind the scenes machinations and politics of a studio and stuff like that. It's not healthy. I mean, it can be very interesting discussion, but it becomes unhealthy when we attach ourselves to it. And that's part of the problem with fandom today. All right, what's next?
Okay, anonymous. This one's a hoot. I've seen numerous stories reporting that 2 Oscar voters said they didn't vote for Fiennes because he's already won before, which of course isn't true. Is there any validity to this story? If so, it's bizarre how oblivious they sound.
I can't think of anything less interesting to talk about. Okay, look. Obviously, number one, Ray Fiennes has not won an Academy Award, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that. Here's what always makes me laugh hysterically. When somebody says, like, runs, oh, the Oscars are completely legitimate. There was this one Oscar voter who said they didn't even watch that movie. That's why there's almost 10,000 Oscar voters.
It's a lot. 2 voters versus 9,900 voters. I mean,
It's,
well, I guess 98,
the sheer volume of Oscar voters
98, 98.
washes out any of those outliers that are dumb. Like, let's say there was, which I don't believe for a second. I don't believe for 1 second that there actually were 2 Oscar voters said, well, I'm not going to vote for Ray Fiennes because he's won before, and not even realize that he hadn't won before. I don't believe that report for a second. But let's say for a moment, let's pretend like it's true. It won't affect anything. That's why you have nearly 10,000 voters, because it drowns out the idiotic outliers. That's one of my big problems with the Golden Globes. It's only voted on by the Hollywood Foreign Press, who, like, it's different now, but as of just a couple of years ago, had 60 members. You get 5 stupid people out of 60, that can swing an entire category. You get 5 people out of 10,000, it means nothing. It means nothing. So that's why I don't think people should worry about stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
All right, here's our last of the tips. Gavin says, hey guys, different kind of question today. How did you guys get over seeing a movie by yourself? I never had to get over it. It didn't bother me. I realized I've never seen a movie by myself. I always get very socially awkward and anxious and don't like the thought of it. Any helpful advice?
Just do it. It's just like anything else.
Yeah.
Right? Anything else you're uncomfortable with, go do it once or twice and you won't be uncomfortable with it anymore.
You know-
Honestly, it's the same thing about going to eat in a restaurant by yourself.
I used to have an issue with that, and then I'm like, I did it. I'm like, what was I worried about? Who cares?
Yeah, you're going down, you're sitting down, you're going to watch a movie.
And I
Now-
would say, go ahead.
I was going to say,
Mhm.
even I can imagine, let's say there was a I'm making something up here.
Sure.
There's a My Little Pony movie with a bunch of children and one grown-ass man sitting by himself. Maybe then I'd feel a little conspicuous.
Dog man.
Yeah, like a grown-ass man by himself going to sit watch Dog Man.
Dog man. It has man in the title. Come on.
That's true.
Get out of here.
I might feel a little conspicuous under that situation.
Yeah, but you go to see whatever. Conclave,
It's like,
whatever.
I remember I went to freaking VidCon. Well, YouTube invited me. Remember, like last year or 2 years? I can't remember. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Anyway, YouTube invited me to go and be their keynote speaker on how to use super chats and stuff like that. And that was fun and everything. But I remember going to VidCon, and when getting there, Ann went with me, and we're like, it's all children.
Mhm, yeah.
It's all beauty makeup tutorial TikTokers. And basically it was like 90% kids. And I'm like, and I was talking to my buddy Soul on the phone. He's like, oh, so how's VidCon? I said, I feel like I'm at Pedophiles for You, or Pedophiles Are Us.
Yeah.
Like,
E.
it's just like, I feel really out of place being here. And that's how I would maybe feel going to see a movie maybe targeted at a younger audience. If I was sitting there by myself, then I'd feel better if I was with it. But honestly, you go to a movie and watch a movie. Do it once or twice, you'll feel totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch TV by yourself, you could watch a movie by yourself.
I would say 2 things. If you're socially awkward, getting a group together is harder because now you have to socialize. If you go there, you could order ahead. You go into a darkened theater where no one's supposed to be talking to you anyway.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of people that mention this, I don't think they realize it. There are theaters full of people by themselves in there. You wouldn't be the only one.
Yeah, that's true. All right, what's next?
Okay, so now we have our members here. Z Thomas says, have you ever had the opportunity to see Hans Zimmer live?
Yes, just a few months ago.
I did at Coachella actually years ago. My wife got me tickets and a trip for my birthday. We agreed it was the best live performance we've ever seen.
It wasn't the best live performance I'd ever seen, but it was awesome. I'll tell you what, man. First of all, two things. When he started playing, What Are You Gonna Do When You're Not Saving the World for Man of Steel? I'm not gonna lie, I teared up. When he started playing the theme from Dune, and even had the girl there on stage going, ah, like all that kind of stuff, and playing the theme from Dune, and started weeping and crying. When they brought out and did the Wonder Woman theme, and they brought, what's the girl's name? Tina Dow? Tina Dow? Anyway, the electric violinist who does the for like Wonder Woman. I just got Gao. That's what it is. Tina Gao.
Yeah.
Gao. Gao, not Dow. I got emotional listening to that. When he started playing the music from the end of Gladiator, as he's going over the wheat field. And again, he brought in the original vocalist to do it. It was a great performance. Absolutely loved it.
The only one I regret not being able to see was Ramin, the composer from Game of Thrones. Remember they were doing that live Game of Thrones? I wish I had seen that.
I wish you could program, your flush to have a soundtrack. Your toilet flush. I would do the
All right, what's next?
We got Jay says, hey crew, for the first time I finally watched Tropic Thunder and loved it. Tom Cruise's character dancing to apple bottom jeans was my favorite part. A lot of people's favorite part.
Oh, step back. Oh God, that post-credits, that's one of the best things I've ever seen. I still, about once every 3, 4, or 5 months, I'll be working. I'm like, you know what? And I'll go over to YouTube and I'll bring up that Tom Cruise thing doing the dance.
Right.
I have to watch that movie.
It's so good. A lot of people say that movie couldn't be released today. Absolutely it could.
Sure.
100% it could. Right? It's because it was like, especially with the Robert Downey Jr. character, they were making fun of it.
Yeah, he was the idiot. He was the idiot. It wasn't like they were glorifying that.
It was like, look how ridiculous this is. Yeah. As long as you frame it right, you can absolutely do stuff like that. You can absolutely 100% do Tropic Thunder today. All right. Anyway, what's next?
Mighty Tank. Shang-Chi would be a great addition to Spider-Man 4. Hope they do that.
I wouldn't mind it, but don't compromise the story. Don't force Shang-Chi in there. Like, if you've got a Spider-Man story to tell the Spider-Man story. Don't just go, and hey, everybody, look at Shang-Chi. Like,
yeah.
I love Shang-Chi. I want to see Shang-Chi in the movies, but don't just force him in there for the sake of doing it. If you got the story and he fits that story, fine. All right, what's next?
Okay, Matt says hello. Says, hey, John and crew, how would you feel about the next Bond being a period piece? Well, we've talked about that.
No, it's a terrible idea. James Bond films have never been period pieces. James Bond films have always been contemporary to when they came out. Always have been. That is the tradition of Bond. I do not think they should do, because that's just not what Bond is. Bond isn't a period piece stuff. So I don't think they should do it. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm not saying they can't do it and find a way to do it well. But if you're asking me right now, I think it would be a very, very bad idea. That's breaking with the tradition of Bond. All right, what's next?
Top Gun Manny says, where does Sam, Captain America, go from here? It's either he takes a serum, gets powers somehow, or he's always going to second guess his strength abilities. I think he has to move on from that. If he gains powers, I feel it's a cop-out for his character and won't add anything we've already seen. I don't think he makes it past Secret Wars.
Oh, he'll make it past Secret Wars.
Sure.
Like they never had to give Hawkeye powers. They never had to give Black Widow powers. They, all that kind of stuff. And they kind of have given him powers by giving him an Iron Man suit. Right. Sorry, the Falcon outfit it's an Iron Man suit.
It's actually a hybrid. It's a Black Panther and
it's a Wakandan and Iron Man kind of mixture sort of thing, right? He's got his own AI. What's it called? Red Wing.
Yeah.
Red Wing, go do this. But so he's got his own Jarvis. Kind of thing, and so he's basically has it. But they've got to abandon the struggling with the serum thing. Number one, because there's not supposed to be any serum left. It's supposed to be gone, and they've already had him go through that struggle twice. So I just let him be Falcon, man. Just let him be Falcon. Anyway, all right. What's next?
Okay, let's see. Let me scroll here. Random update says James Gunn is back in Atlanta working on post production for Superman. When would you expect films are generally 100% done before a release date?
generally speaking, about 3 to 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, that's the median.
Where they're sitting on a locked project, ready to drop it.
I remember interviewing Joss Whedon once, and he looked frazzled because literally the night before he was still putting the final touches on Avengers: Age of Ultron. I mean, so there are those stories of movies that like just got done like a week. They put the final cherry on top like a week before the movie came out. Those happen sometimes.
Right.
But generally speaking, you also get movies that are done and in the can and waiting on the shelf for well over a year before they come out. I would say generally speaking, you're looking at 3 to 4 months as an average. All right, what's next? This will be the last one, by the way.
Sure. Umang says, hey, John and crew, do you think we'll ever see Namor again?
Namor.
I really enjoyed his character, although they did kind of dirty him at the end of Wakanda Forever, but I hope they bring him back. Maybe a solo Atlantis project.
Well, yeah, if they want to put out a movie that nobody goes to see.
Yeah.
Now, again, I really liked the character in that movie. I wasn't a big fan of the movie overall, but I thought Namor, I'm just going to call him Namor. I thought Namor is a really good character. I think there's some really interesting things you can do with him and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think we're going to see him again. Especially if you understand, it depends on how much they want to, how much from the original comics they want to take. But like in the comics of Secret Wars, Namor is actually kind of important. If you know the story. So I see them using him again.
And another link to to mutants.
Yeah. But I don't see a Namor standalone movie happening.
I wonder if they'll recast him though. Just because of the stuff he's been going through.
Yeah.
I think easily recasted because it's not like people are attached to that character.
It's true. It's not like he was a super popular character from the movie. So you could. I'm going to guess they don't. But I think we'll see him in the new somewhere, maybe not in Doomsday, in Doomsday, but I think there's a pretty good chance, I'm guessing, for him to pop in one of the two. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because it gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank Ray Ora.
See you guys tomorrow.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys.
The recently left already Chris Carr and Robert Meyer Burnett.
Yep.
Big thank you to you guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.